Oh, the green and red of Mayo, I can see it still. It's soft and craggy boglands, it's tall majestic hills, where the ocean kisses Ireland, the waves caress its shore. Oh, the feeling it came over me, to stay forevermore, forevermore.
So a year ago, former Mayo midfielder David Brady started calling elderly people to chat Gaelic games and help them through lockdown. And delighted to say that David is on the line to tell us all about it. And David, first of all, can you explain how did this all start up?
I suppose it was something very simple. Was that it started from a request that I got through. I think it was actually coming up a year to the date next week. And the son of a man down in Wicklow just contacted me in a direct message on Twitter and look at. He said, I know it's a long shot, but is there any chance you might give my dad a call? He's cocooning down in Wicklow and he's GAA mad, and look at, find it hard like all of us at that stage the first 2 or 3 weeks into lockdown. And I said, you know what? I saw the message and I pressed the button straight away and called Tom Byrne down in Wicklow. And you know what? I have to say I didn't know what it was going to entail or what the conversation was going to, what way it was going to go. But for me, it's one of the best things I've ever done. And the actual conversation I had with Tom, the foundation, I suppose, was based on GAA and look at, will we ever see it back and will we ever win it all around? But I suppose it transcended a lot more than just GAA, and it was life and life journeys, and I think it was 35-40 minutes that I spent on the phone to Tom. And I came off and I went, you know what? I'm racking my head to see what I can do or how I can help people maybe in COVID, and that for me was the spark that created. I suppose it's hundreds of phone calls now in 12 months next week, but I have each and every phone call I've made, every conversation I've created has been a two-way process, and it's one of the greatest things I've ever done, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, that's amazing, David. And like as you touched on there, like the person taking the phone call gets a lot out of it, but you must have taken a lot out of it yourself from talking to these people over the past year.
Look, it's what you do, and the spectrum of people. Look, it kind of started out the first week just kind of people with across the country or across the world, that would be die-hard GAA people, but it's snowballed altogether. There's not too many counties that I haven't called, and a couple of countries included. And it for me, it taught me one thing, and again, that sometimes just shut up, David, and listen. And that was a very important point. That I called, I introduced myself, we talked, but I listened. And again, if you can have a conversation with somebody by just listening, I think that's key. And I had I suppose the age spectrum was anything, someone that might have needed a call, that might have been in their 40s or 50s and struggling a little bit, up to people that were cocooning in their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. The oldest man I called was a man of 97 years of age, a Carlow man, hurling man, down in Carlow in an old folks' home, a nursing home, and that for me, the lessons and just how much people appreciate a call or to touch base with them, and I suppose how much I learned that no matter what path you have in life, you're going to have obstacles thrown in it, and people talk to me as a stranger about some very personal things, and about life challenges, and I suppose some loss that they had in their lifetime. And they were using it as an example of, I suppose, tenacity and resilience, and how to look at, survive it, walk through it one step at a time, and you get through the other side. And that's the positivity for me, was brilliant. And how, I suppose, a simple stranger Look, I rang some people that wouldn't have a clue who David Brady was. It was a person, it was a stranger calling, but we created a conversation, and there's massive lessons, I suppose, for me, without a doubt, but for everyone. And it's a simple thing. It's created someone's spark to create the opportunity, but and look, it's not about David Brady, and it's not. I have talked to more people, and more people have contacted me to say, look, what can I do? Who can I phone? Give me a few numbers. And it's even just there now today, I just sent out a few guys names of people and numbers, and I get a bit of background from them when people contact me to say, look, my father or my mother is X, Y, and Z, and we have so many amount of kids, and they give me a bit of a life story. And I'm passing them on to the likes of a few weeks back, Brian Mullins, the ex-Dublin player. Like, Brian contacted me and said, look, I want to make calls as well. Give me numbers, give me names, and I'll call them. And, like, for me to get a call of Brian Mullins, get me a lift. Never mind. This man, Brian, called there 2 weeks ago. The call lasted about 10 seconds because the man he called didn't believe that it was Brian Mullins himself.
Right.
And when he said it to he went into the room and said it to his daughter, and she goes, "Oh, David Brady, I must check." And I had just messaged the daughter 5 minutes previous to say Brian Mullins would be calling. And again, the father rang back and apologised to Brian for not believing who he was. And I think 45 minutes later, they had a conversation. And as the outcome, when the game and the ball is thrown in, they're going to meet for a fight before a game in the future, which is, look, they're the simple things. And to have people of the stature of Brian Mullins ringing someone that was 72 years of age, it means a lot to people.
Yeah, like it's an incredible gift, David, just like a simple thing, just to chat to someone during this lockdown when people are finding it so tough. And like you mentioned, Brian Mullins there, what other county players have got involved in this initiative over the past 12 months?
Oh, look, from just, you ask someone, look at, there's even John Milan. John Milan has done calls and is willing to do more. I rang a man in Galway, and look, I was putting my box straight away. He more or less says football wasn't his thing, and I was at a kind of, I'm going right. On a brief conversation, he had one hero, and that was Henry Shefflin. And I said, "Good luck, goodbye, and God bless." And sorry for disturbing you. And I got on to Henry straight away, and the man's nephew gave me a message back. And he says, the lift and the unbelievable awakening in an 82-year-old man to get a call from King Henry was just special. And Henry had no qualms about it, rang the man in Galway, and you go to yourself, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And look, it's one call, but sometimes the ripple effect are, people have said to me, there's a neighbour down the road that I'm going to give a call. I wouldn't have really known him or anything, but they're going to call them. And that's not about, because you played county football for Mayo for 14 years. But it's about just being, I suppose, human nature and a bit of, you know what, I probably see it, if it was my father or my uncle or my mother that got the phone call, wouldn't it be great? And wouldn't it create a bit of positivity and a bit of conversation in the call that you might have on a Friday night to your mother or father? And yeah, that's kind of the pretense of it. And look at to tell you one story about a man I called on a Friday night down in Kerry man, and I'd say I got the message probably 10 or 12 weeks, maybe even further previous to that, and I just hadn't got around on the list to call him. And I called him on a Friday night, and Shamey more or less said to me straight off, he says, I'm here doing the crossword, and the only company I've had all day is the pencil I have in my hand.
Jenny.
And unbeknownst to me, that Tuesday, he lost his lifelong his partner. And I kind of going, Jesus, to know that the only company the man had was a pencil in his hand that day, human, the only contact. And he lost his partner the previous Tuesday. Now, this is in the middle of lockdown last year. It knocked me for 6. But from that, Jamie and myself, we've corresponded. He sent me a book on Curry football, which I had to bloody read, but it was all about them winning. But then again, I sent Jamie the programme. I was lucky enough to get to the All-Ireland final working this year. I sent Jamie down the programme. He collected programmes of All-Ireland finals all down through the years. This is one he wasn't going to be at, so I sent Jamie down the programme, and little text here and there, how are you keeping, and that's again, I have some amount of people to meet after when the ball is thrown back in, because it's lovely. It's lovely, so it is. Yeah,
it sure is. And like, how long more, David, do you plan to continue making these phone calls?
Look, I always say at the very start, I was some days I was going through hours, but I don't see it as a chore, Thomas. I don't see it as this is one that, and I don't know when I ever get to the end of the list. Probably when everything comes back to normality, we probably all start leading the busy lives that we led beforehand. And you might ring someone and they mightn't answer because they're busy, and at the moment everyone is not busy and they're able to answer their calls on a Thursday, Friday or Saturday night. I'll keep doing it, and I'll keep going through the list as long as I can listen, as long as people can talk, and the opportunity for conversation is there. I'll keep doing it.
Great stuff. And I suppose a final question, David, I suppose we have to talk football at some stage, and I suppose like Mayo and Waterford people have a lot of things in common. We're both desperate to win an All-Ireland title. How optimistic would you be that Mayo can contend again for Sam Maguire in 2021?
You know what? It's very. We're caught in the wrong thought, I think, in Waterford and Mayo. And I'll tell you, the one common thing is that neither county has ever given up. Players have retired and teams have passed on. But the one common denominator is that we still believe, and we're no different in Mayo than we are in Waterford, that we still believe that we have the capability and the possibility. We don't. It's not a dream. It's a live reality that we get to face every year. Will this be our year? And you just never know. But the one thing I do know is it is going to happen. That's for sure. And again, it mightn't be when we think it, or it might be when we have our best team. But it'll happen. And I did think, I'm going, geez, if Waterford win it in the hurling, it would actually give a serious lift to Mayo if we were in the final 2 weeks later, and you're going, well, they broke the hoodoo, and now we've. But sometimes it's just a matter of luck as well. Waterford hadn't the luck over the years in certain circumstances, certain times in games, and Mayo the same. But as I'll end as I started, we'll never give up. And once that, I suppose, that drive and that ambition is there from people, and that's what generates and hands it on to players coming up. That belief within the supporters, or within the people of Waterford, and within the people of Mayo, it's contagious. And look, we're like the rest of them. People look at us and say, poor Mayo, or God help Waterford. And we're in a privileged position to have fantastic teams, fantastic players and squads. So what? We don't get over the line every year. We will, but the most important thing is, and it's like the telephone call, it's the journey and the fun, the camaraderie, the togetherness of going to games or Munster finals, Connacht finals or Ireland finals. That's the beauty of it, and that's for me what is special about football and hurling.
Well, David, it's been a real tonic to talk to you today. I have to say, you've done a great deed over the past 12 months. Former Mayo footballer David Brady, thanks so much for your time today.
It was a pleasure, and look after yourself.
Kieran MacDonald, the fact that he has possession will inspire the team and give the fans a lot of confidence. That's a great pass. Dillon, nicely on here. Brady's coming through like a train, and this team has a winning look about it. David Brady kicks a third.
Lorna Porca with Tomás McCarthy on WLR.